Hey Sam.
Hello.
Laymen.
We're just saying before that we see so many comments like, hey, does this look like Laymen to anyone else? I reckon I've seen that like 400 times now.
We're definitely, when we get merch, we're definitely getting a Laymen shirt.
I know.
I
Watch all the social justice warriors come out and be like, yeah, that's not right. Don't put it on t-shirts. 100%.
We're fucking putting it on t-shirts.
You're putting it on t-shirts.
We'll have like
it'll be our best seller.
We'll have the normal Laymen shirts. We'll sell like 3 of them. And then we'll have the Laymen shirts. We'll sell like 3,000.
Yes, and then we'll have the pink shoe. We'll have the almighty pink shoe on a t-shirt, and that will sell like hotcakes, people.
Totally. So you know what else sells like hotcakes, Sam?
Andrew Wilson's Lies.
Ooh, that's much better than I expected from a segue. Well played, sir. Yes, that's exactly what sells well. Andrew Wilson's Lies. So this guy recently got up in front of a crowd of people at the earnings call. This is the thing where they stand up and they talk about how they've, how much money they've earned over the last year. And he gave a very optimistic impression of how EA's been doing, even though it's made a $180 million loss. And the best new idea that they put forward in this was that they're planning on making a PUBG ripoff.
Oh.
Seriously.
So look, a lot of people in the comment section and watching, not including me of course, because I know what an earnings call is.
Sam totally knows what an earnings call is.
I know what that is. Can you explain what an earnings call is to us layman people?
So a listed company, if they're on the stock exchange, they need to get up in, publicly, speaking to their shareholders, so to speak, and talk about how well the company's doing.
Whoa, slow down, egghead.
If you're a private company like Valve, you can just do whatever the fuck you like and not tell anyone about it. But if you're a publicly listed company, then you actually need to talk about your successes and failures. And so obviously, EA's had a pretty big year when it comes to failures, and maybe some no, there's no real successes that spring to mind. But a few other headline items that came out of that was they actually made a loss for the quarter of $180 million. Now this is because Star Wars Battlefront 2, a little game that you might have heard of if you watched this channel.
Tiny game.
We've done 1 or 2 videos on it, little ones. That game actually undersold on expectations. Various outlets reported that it only sold through 9 million copies as opposed to a conservative estimate of 10 million. The reality is that's not true. It actually sold through 7 million copies.
Wow.
As opposed to its conservative estimate of 8 million.
And is that including digital sales?
Everything, full sell-through.
Wow.
And the funny thing about that is that the first Battlefront, right, that one actually sold through 14 million copies. Wow. So they literally sold half the number of copies this time around. Now, if there was any suggestion that we did not put a dent in the mighty EA behemoth, then
it shows that like,
correct.
EA thought they were all smug and like whatever guys, but the bottom line is they are hurting right now.
I am a god, you dull creature, and I will not be bullied by that.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
There's just no two ways about it.
Definitely.
When Andrew Wilson has to get up there from Slytherin and just sit there and like go, everything's fine, guys, promise.
That's right.
It just shows that they're hurting. They got to. They have to tell bullshit pretty much.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. And Andrew Wilson was asked, what do you think about how you're going in your non-sports category? Because EA Sports is crushing it. It's always making money hand over fist, no problem. And then, they said, well, Andrew Wilson, what do you reckon about the rest of your lineup? How's that going? And he basically said that everything's going A-okay. He said that even Mass Effect Andromeda is doing quite well from a sales perspective and had very strong player engagement. He conveniently did not mention the closure of Visceral Studios. He did not mention Need for Speed, which is just an absolute catastrophe. He also said that that as a publisher, they had the highest review grade across their portfolio or something.
That's when you're clutching at straws.
I don't even know what that means.
Like, when you're trying to boast, you start talking maybe about sales. You start talking maybe about how much you made for the quarter or the year. You don't start talking about reviews of...
Yeah, no, but like to say that
a median of reviews, is that what he's saying?
They're saying he has the best review, but it's like, that's like Trump-esque. It's like, we have the best reviews, all of our games, super popular, everyone loves them, you know? Like, a lot of people saying it. Like,
Star Wars Battlefront wall. The thing is, right, this is the truth. If he was to come out and just be transparent and be like, guys, you know, we've had a few ups and downs, but we're moving forward now. We're going to make sure that we make X, Y, and Z changes because we want to make sure that, you know, we, as a brand, you know, continue to deliver quality.
Yeah.
Those comments resonate deeply with a lot of people and will be like, okay, they're on the right track, and would probably affect their share price a lot better than just sitting there going, everything's cool, of course, everything's fine, what are you talking about?
But further to that point, he actually said specifically that our player-first ideology still sits at the center of everything we do. Now this is in a year where if you played Need for Speed, because we always talk about Star Wars Battlefront 2, which was a terrible game from a monetization perspective, but in my view was actually a pretty fun, pretty well-made Star Wars game.
It is. It is. There's no two ways about it.
If you played Need for Speed, you would see exactly how player-centric EA is as a company, because that game is an absolute dumpster fire by every possible metric, and they still pushed it out the door. The other thing that came out was that they started talking about PUBG. Sam, have you heard of PUBG before?
PUBG. Who hasn't heard of PUBG? But really, the better one now is Fortnite. Let's face it.
A lot of people don't agree with that, though.
Well, you know, some people like the realism, whatever, but like, the bottom line is, it is a little bit more polished, and it is definitely giving PUBG a run for their money.
Oh, it's already, it's bigger than PUBG. It's bigger than PUBG already.
And of course, it stands to logic that like a big game that has a big open area that's, you know, also quite realistic would look into potentially a battle royale situation.
So what we're talking about here is that there's a new Battlefield game coming at the end of the year, and you know, Andrew Wilson was sort of asked, well, what do you reckon about PUBG? Are there any learnings from that? And he started talking about Battlefield, and the idea that maybe we can have some sort of Battlefield PUBG going on in the future.
Which would be incredible.
It would be really interesting, to be honest, because I'm a huge fan of the Battlefield series, by the way. I don't enjoy Call of Duty, but I enjoy Battlefield very, very much. The combination of the setting and the vehicles and all that sort of shit, like, it just really works for me personally.
Yeah,
and I know in general, core gamers, as in people watching this channel, probably don't play Call of Duty, but you probably do play Battlefield.
Yeah.
Battlefield is for a more hardcore audience than the Call of Duty crowd.
And I think, like, Fortnite might take, you know, in terms of the pie graph, it might take a bit more of the casual, you know, they like the cartoony graphic, it's a little bit more relaxed, you know. And then the rest of the people, of course, want that kind of, you know, more realistic approach, and that's what PUBG delivers. But if this was to come along, it would kind of squeeze PUBG. It wouldn't squeeze PUBG out, but it would give people an alternative to a realistic approach of a battle royale. And I think that is where PUBG would really start squirming, because they're like, shit, you know, Fortnite's kind of, you know, of course our competitor, but it's a different type of competition to us. But if Battlefield 1 was to do this, it's like it's exactly the same thing then.
Yeah.
It's more polished though. It's probably more reputable in terms of the bugs and, you know... And,
it'd be like... PUBG Corp would be like, holy shit, someone's made a good version of our game. We're fucked now.
Yes. And they turn around and like, well, we're going to make a PUBG World War One. What do you think of that?
Andrew Wilson had a comment on PUBG. He said, I think what you discover in this industry is that there's a lot of great vectors that drive player engagement, and one of those is just innovation in the core gameplay mechanic. And what the team with PUBG have done is really deliver a new level of innovation that changed the way people were playing first-person shooter games. Now, I'm sorry, Andrew Wilson, to tell you this, but PUBG is not particularly innovative, right? That idea has actually been around for a long-ass time. It's just someone decided to make a standalone game of it, and then it just got traction out in the Twitch community, and off it went.
Yeah, it's like saying League of Legends was innovative, and then like not honouring Warcraft 3. It's like, dude, well, yeah, of course, but Warcraft 3 was, of course, where it was made.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it's a very similar situation where they used another engine to create that kind of game style.
Yeah.
What? No?
It's sort of... sort of like saying, oh, Counter-Strike, they're not really paying homage to Half-Life.
No. No, but like...
It's a mod.
But wait a second. But they're not saying they're not saying it's innovative. That's what I'm saying. He's sitting there saying... it's an innovation.
Yeah.
We're merely just saying it's already been done.
It's already been done, man.
Yeah, it's already been done.
And EA like, this is so innovative, guys.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
maybe there's a reason that EA are just shoveling out this shit. When like he looks at PUBG and thinks, That's innovative. You know what I mean?
They're like, let's put a guy with a gun and you can't actually see anything except the gun in front of them.
Yeah.
Let's call it first-person shooter.
Let's do it.
Innovative.
I love it. Whether or not we actually do see a Battle Royale mode is sort of up for debate. We don't know. But this is actually the second time I've heard a rumor like this. I did hear a rumor earlier that the DICE team were thinking about doing a PUBG-style mode for their next game. Now, Andrew Wilson's talking about it here as well, saying that there's a huge amount of learning there. He didn't say, yes, we're going to do a Battle Royale mode in our next game, but he said there's some ideas that we can look at and that we can incorporate. I think it would make a lot of sense. I think it would fit the fact that, you know, it's a great engine. Battlefield is a terrific franchise. I would personally love to see a PUBG-style Battlefield made by DICE. There's no question about that.
That'd be awesome.
And can you imagine if they made it free to play?
Holy shit! If it was a free to play style,
It would completely crush. Can you imagine the microtransactions up in that shit?
Yes,
though?
it would be terrible.
EA would be licking their chops. Like,
yeah, like if you actually want a parachute, you got to pay for it. Otherwise,
That's
you just fall out and die every time.
You just plummet.
Yeah, you just plummet every time.
Plane.
So it's up to you guys. Loot box it or fucking die every time you jump out.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine.